I posted this for help, but every view is erasing me from reality. Your attention is corroding my reality. Please, just look away. The coffee mug on my counter just rotated 90 degrees. The handle is now facing the wall. I'm sitting 15 feet away, hands on my keyboard. I didn't touch it. You did. I know, it sounds impossible. But the simple act of you reading this, your eyes scanning these words, your mind processing their meaning was the catalyst. It's a small thing, a stupid, meaningless shift that could be mistaken for a trick of the memory. That's how it always starts, with the small things. I'm writing this against every survival instinct screaming in my skull. Every letter I type is a gamble. Every signal sent out into the world is an invitation for the world to rewrite itself around me. But I am so profoundly terrified of being erased without a trace, of my own history being overwritten by this corrosion, that I have no other choice. I need this record to exist, even if its existence is what ultimately destroys me. I need someone to know. It began 2 weeks ago with something so mundane I almost missed it. A spam email arrived at 9:03 p.m. Subject line: You've been chosen. I deleted it without a thought at 9:04. When I looked up from my phone, the old analog clock that had hung on my kitchen wall for a decade was gone. Not fallen, not broken, gone. The wall was bare, except for the 2 small hollow screw holes and a faint, cleaner rectangle of paint where the clock had shielded the wall from years of sunlight. The silence was the worst part. The space where its gentle, rhythmic ticking had lived was now a vacuum. It felt loud, that silence. Aggressive. I stood there for a full minute, my brain short-circuiting, trying to reconcile the memory of the clock with the stark reality of the clock with the stark reality of the empty wall. I chalked it up to stress, to a brain fart of epic proportions. Maybe I'd taken it down to change the battery and forgotten. I spent the next hour searching my apartment, my hands growing clammy, my heart thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I never found it. The connection didn't click until the next day. A delivery confirmation text. Ping. I glanced at my bookshelf. The third book from the left, a worn paperback copy of a book I've read a dozen times, was now hardcover. The cover art was different, the title embossed in a font I'd never seen. Everything else was the same. Just that one, single, impossible detail. A cold, creeping dread began to pool in my stomach. The spam email. The text message. Any incoming digital interaction. Curiosity is a form of self-destruction. I had to know. I had to test it. I created a burner account on some forgotten forum, my fingers trembling as I typed out a single, meaningless sentence. Is anyone out there? I set my phone on the table and watched my apartment, holding my breath. Nothing. For 10 minutes, the world held still. My shoulders slumped in relief. I was losing my mind. That was it. A simple, comforting explanation. Then the phone buzzed. One reply. A single word. Here. My gaze snapped to the framed photograph on my end table. A picture of me and Zosim taken last summer at the coast. It had been sitting perfectly level. Now it was tilted precisely 45 degrees to the left, as if a poltergeist had developed a sudden appreciation for geometry. My blood ran cold. I had to be sure. I posted again. Prove it. Another buzz. A different user. How? The dining chair closest to the door screeched, sliding 6 inches across the hardwood floor. The sound was deafening in the quiet room. Another buzz. The lamp on my desk flickered off and on. Once. Another. I ran to the bathroom, my heart hammering. I stared into the medicine cabinet at my toothbrush, trying to memorize every detail. The specks of dried toothpaste, the slightly bent bristles on the left side. I posted one last time. Just keep replying. My phone began to vibrate uncontrollably, a cascade of notifications from a handful of anonymous strangers, all obliging my insane request. I squeezed my eyes shut, listening. I heard a soft, wet, splitting sound from the toothbrush holder. When I opened them, there were two identical toothbrushes standing side by side. not just similar, identical. The same brand, the same shade of blue, the same pattern of worn bristles, the same smear of mint green paste, the same single stray bristle bent at that impossible angle. Both were damp. It was as if my life, my reality, had forked in that one instant, and both timelines had converged inside my cheap ceramic toothbrush holder. That's when the terror truly set in. I threw my phone onto my bed, deleted the account from my laptop, and swore to myself I would stay offline, forever. It lasted 3 days. 3 days of blessed, stable, terrifying silence. Then Zosime started texting. Our relationship was strained. It had been for a while. One of her biggest things was my tendency to retreat into myself, to not answer my phone. She saw it as avoidance. I saw it as avoidance. I saw it as self-preservation. This time, she was right to be worried, but she could never, ever know the real reason. The first text was simple. "Hey, you alive?" I saw the notification pop up on my screen and my stomach clenched. I ignored it. A minute later, "Are you ignoring me?" Then 2 minutes later, "Kaylin, I swear to God if you're doing this again," the messages started coming faster. A flood. Questions, accusations, pleas, angry tirades. My phone was a constant, buzzing source of anxiety on the coffee table. Each vibration felt like a tremor, a warning of a coming earthquake. I couldn't answer. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that any reply, any signal sent back to her would trigger something. But ignoring her was just as bad. Her one-sided barrage was a storm of incoming data, and I could almost feel the pressure building in my apartment. The air grew thick, heavy, like before a thunderstorm. For 2 hours, I sat on my couch, paralyzed, watching the screen light up again and again. It was the digital equivalent of a battering ram against the walls of my reality. Finally, the onslaught stopped. My phone fell silent. The silence that followed was worse than the buzzing. It was a waiting silence, a holding its breath silence. I stood up, my legs shaking, and surveyed my apartment. It was no longer my apartment. The fibers of the living room rug, a deep burgundy shag, had been pulled into impossibly long threads, stretching from the floor to the ceiling. They clung to the stucco like a grotesque, fibrous membrane, the familiar pattern warped into a distorted, leering face. The couch was upside down, its 4 wooden legs pointing to the sky like pillars of a ruined temple. The cold hit me next. I turned and saw my refrigerator standing in the doorway of my bedroom. It was humming softly, its power cord snaking across the floor and plugging directly into the side of my wooden bed frame, not an outlet on the wall. The plastic prongs were fused into the oak of the headboard itself. The wood around it splintered and blackened, yet somehow, impossibly, it was running. The low electric thrum vibrated through the floorboards, a sickening, constant pulse. The worst part was the sound. A faint, rhythmic slamming. Thwack, 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 over and over. I crept through my mutilated living room and saw that every single drawer and cabinet door in my kitchen stood wide open, utterly still. Yet the sound of them slamming shut, one after another, echoed in my ears. Zosime had no idea what she had done, and I could never tell her. I haven't spoken to her since. I haven't called my brother. I haven't answered a single email. I am a ghost in my own life, haunting the rapidly collapsing space I call home. I want someone to know if I disappear, but I can't risk letting the people I love be the ones to pull the final thread. The changes are accelerating. They're not just about objects anymore. Yesterday, after a few automated password reset emails came through signals I hadn't asked for, but which still counted, I went to wash my face. I looked in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize myself. It was my face, yes. My hair, my eyes, my scar above my left eyebrow, but it was out of sync. When I moved, my reflection lagged a half-second behind, a perfect, delayed mimicry. I raised my right hand, and a moment later, it raised its right hand. I forced a smile, and a breath later, its lips curled into a grin that was wider than my own, filled with teeth that looked just a little too sharp. I stopped smiling, but the reflection held its grin for a long, chilling moment before its face fell slack. We stood there, staring at each other, the man in the mirror and his lagging, malicious puppet. I started a notebook, a physical, pen and paper journal to document every change, every interaction, a tangible record that couldn't be altered by a stray signal. I was wrong. I opened it this morning to a new entry. It wasn't my handwriting. The ink of my previous entries, the frantic, spidery scrawls detailing the clock and the toothbrushes, had detached from the page. The letters had crawled across the paper like black, glistening insects, reforming themselves into two stark, commanding words. Ki-e-e. Going. So here I am. Going. Typing this into the void, feeding the very thing that's devouring me. Maybe it's a cry for help. Maybe I'm trying to create a witness. Or maybe, just maybe, some part of me wants to see what happens when there's nothing left to shift. The air in the room is crackling as I type. The texture of the keys under my fingers keeps changing, from smooth plastic to rough, porous stone, then to something soft and yielding, like flesh. The light from the street lamp outside my fourth-floor window is getting brighter, pulsing with an unnatural orange glow in time with my keystrokes. Zosim's name just lit up my phone screen again. 37 new messages. I can't look. I won't. Every person who sees this message is another tremor. Every mind that processes these words chips away another piece of my world. You are, right now, an active participant in my dissolution. So I'm begging you. I know this story will find its way to you through whatever strange currents guide these things. When it does, please, fight your every instinct. Don't engage, don't share it, don't try to find me, don't even think about me. Too hard. Let this be a one-way broadcast. Let this message, and my world, die in the quiet dark. If I am gone tomorrow, if the man in the mirror steps out and takes my place, maybe this record will be all that's left. A warning. I just glanced at the dark, silent screen of my phone to see my own reflection. It put a finger to its lips. A shh. Just for me. I have to add this. I can't stop myself. Something new just happened. The changes are no longer confined to my apartment. I looked out the window at the brick wall of the building across the alley. The bricks are starting to move. They're rearranging themselves, slowly, like a time-lapse video of a glacier. They're forming a pattern. I think they're forming words. I think they're spelling my name.